Most people read Genesis 12 as a simple journey. Abram leaves Haran, enters Canaan, and then goes to Egypt. But hidden between these lines are three rarely told stories. Stories about the famine that pushed Abram south, the misunderstood plan involving Sarai, and the moment God himself stepped into Pharaoh's palace. These are the untold chapters of Abram's early walk of faith. After Abram traveled the length of Canaan, after he built his altars and declared the name of the Lord, something unexpected happened. The land God promised him became a place he could no longer survive. A severe famine struck. At first glance, it looks like bad timing. Abram obeyed God, and hardship followed. But this famine wasn't a punishment. It was a divine redirect. Egypt was the strongest kingdom of its day, a land of grain, wealth, and influence. And God was sending Abram there for a reason. This would be Abram's first encounter with a world power. First exposure to diplomacy. First test of how faith survives in a land ruled by kings and gods he did not know. This famine was preparation, a training ground for the father of nations. So Abram, Sarai, Lot, and their entire household traveled down into Egypt. But as the city's walls rose in the distance, a new fear began to take shape. Sarai was beautiful, and Egypt was known for taking what it desired, especially women. Abram knew exactly what could happen. If Egypt wanted Sarai, they wouldn't negotiate with a husband. They'd remove him. So Abram used a custom familiar in the ancient world. He presented Sarai as his sister not to deceive for gain, but to give her the legal protection she needed in a foreign land. A brother had rights to negotiate. A husband did not. It was strategy, not cowardice. And for a moment it seemed to work. But Pharaoh saw Sarai, and his household took her in. The Bible gives almost no details, just a single heavy sentence as if the silence itself echoes Abram's fear. But what Scripture says next is one of the most powerful untold moments in the entire chapter. The Lord plagued Pharaoh and his house. In Hebrew, the word plague implies repeated strikes, sudden, terrifying, unmistakably divine. Something supernatural moved through Pharaoh's palace, something that stopped Egypt's king in his tracks, something he had no control over. God himself stepped into the most powerful empire in the world to protect a woman who carried the promise of a nation. Pharaoh realized the truth. Sarai was not merely a sister, she was the wife of a man chosen by a god Pharaoh had never met but instantly feared. He summoned Abram, ordered servants to escort him out, and remarkably did not take back the gifts he had given. Abram walked out of Egypt with Sarai protected, Lot at his side, and blessings he never asked for. And behind them, Egypt whispered of a foreign god who could reach into palaces and defend his people without lifting a sword. So the famine wasn't a failure, it was a doorway. The sister story wasn't deceit, it was ancient protection. And the plagues weren't judgment, they were God's shield on a future nation. Genesis 12 isn't just a chapter of movement. It's where Abram learns that no land is too powerful, no king too high, and no situation too dangerous for the God who called him and the promise that followed him wherever he went.